The camera pans through a dimly lit Luftwaffe ready room, swirling with smoke as laughter fills the air. Pilots lounge in their flight suits, flicking ash from their cigarettes and exchanging jibes. One of them leans back in his chair, a self-satisfied grin spreading across his face. "Have you seen those American birds? They call it a P-47 Thunderbolt. More like a flying tank," he chuckles, prompting a chorus of laughter. "Yeah, right. It's so heavy, I'm surprised it can even leave the ground. Bet it drinks enough fuel to fill a swimming pool," another adds, mimicking a mechanical whir. "Too slow, too thirsty, and ready to meet its maker. I wouldn't worry about it," another pilot pipes in, clapping his hands together. They all erupt in laughter again, the sound echoing against the peeling walls. A sense of invincibility hangs in the air until the laughter gets interrupted. Suddenly, the camera drops from their banter, slicing through the clouds as the roar of an engine interrupts the camaraderie. There, emerging from the blinding rays of the sun, is a P-47 Thunderbolt, an intimidating silhouette armed with 850 caliber guns. The sound is deafening, a fierce shriek that pierces the mundane chatter of the ready room. Just like that, the mood shifts dramatically. The laughter fades, replaced by a palpable tension. Eyes widen as the P-47 banks hard, releasing a symphony of gunfire. The stark contrast of its strength against the overconfidence of the Luftwaffe pilots establishes a new reality: the underestimated American power that is about to transform the war. In a matter of months, a bulky bruiser of a plane, once the subject of ridicule, would flip the air war's logic on its head. How did America turn their clunky, seemingly unwieldy aircraft into such a formidable weapon? The answer lies not just in design, but in strategy, determination, and sheer relentless spirit. As we unravel this tale of triumph, prepare yourself for irony. How might we chuckle now at what once seemed absurd? You'll want to stick around as we explore the receipts of this transformation, documenting a rise that shifted the very course of history. Join us as we journey through the clouds with the pilots who learned the hard way that underestimating the P-47 Thunderbolt wasn't just a mistake, it was a fatal miscalculation. As summer settled over Europe in 1943, the tension in the skies grew palpable, a grim testament to the high stakes of aerial warfare. The 8th Air Force had committed itself to a relentless campaign of daylight raids against Axis targets, believing that the light of day would expose their enemies and grant them an advantage. However, the brutal reality was far from this optimistic rhetoric. With each mission launched, losses soared, presenting dire consequences not only for the aircraft, but more importantly, for the brave men aboard them. Picture the scene: a squadron of B-17s, their thunderous engines cutting through the hazy summer skies, heavy with bombs and hopes. Beneath them lurked the shadow of the Luftwaffe, a formidable adversary that had tasted blood and learned well how to defend its turf. German pilots, seasoned and skilled, took every opportunity to intercept Allied formations during the vulnerable stretch between the bombers taking off and their fighter escorts arriving. This harsh reality meant that the 8th Air Force was flying missions fraught with danger, often facing an enemy that could strike with deadly efficiency at critical moments. Compounding the problem was the limitation of the escorts. The P-38s and P-47s, designed for combat, couldn't maintain enough range to cover their larger brethren during those crucial interception windows. The B-17s flew in tight formations, hoping to unleash their defensive firepower in unison, while the escorts scrambled to keep pace, often left trailing as the bombers pressed further into enemy territory. Casualties mounted and morale began to fray. Enter the P-47 Thunderbolt, a robust fighter that had been introduced with high hopes but found itself grappling with an image problem. Its massive radial engine gave it the power to deliver punishing blows, but early versions were criticized for their shorter operational range, a trait that had many questioning its suitability for the role of a reliable escort. It seemed like a mismatch, a powerful, hulking fighter tasked with a mission that required speed and endurance. As German pilots surveyed the skies, they surely wondered why they should fear a fighter that, in their eyes, resembled a lumbering beast fresh from a scrap heap. Yet something shifted as the summer wore on. Despite its early struggles, the P-47 began to add substance to its reputation. The fact that Luftwaffe pilots were gradually growing more cautious was no coincidence. What had changed so abruptly that many German aviators would soon find the thunder of the Jug no longer a laughable threat? As the P-47 was modified, its range and performance improved significantly. With each upgrade, from the increased fuel capacity to enhancements in firepower, additional factors came into play. The aerial combat landscape was evolving, and pilots on both sides were forced to adapt. The P-47 transformed into a robust war machine, becoming a fierce adversary that could engage head-on with its German counterparts. As air battles swirled, it carried the hopes of the men who flew it, embedding within pilots a sense of newfound purpose and determination. A shift was imminent, a shift that would not only challenge the Luftwaffe's dominance in those skies, but also alter the course of the air war itself. The gallows humor that once rang among German pilots was increasingly silenced by the roar of USAAF fighters, heralding a new chapter in an aerial conflict that demanded their utmost attention. The stakes were unfurling, and the skies were about to get a lot more turbulent. Let's dive into the fascinating world of aircraft design, specifically focusing on a marvel of engineering, the combination of the Pratt Whitney R-2800 radial engine and its turbo supercharging capabilities. Picture this powerhouse nestled behind a robust airframe that was built with one goal in mind: survival in the face of adversity. The R-2800 radial is not just any engine, it's a beast, renowned for its reliability and power output. When coupled with a rear fuselage turbo supercharger, it transforms this aircraft from simply being fast to something extraordinary. This setup ensures that even at high altitudes where the air is thin, the engine pumps out consistent power. That turbo supercharger feeds high-pressure air back into the engine, enhancing performance, especially during those critical combat scenarios. Imagine being a pilot pushing your limits, knowing that your engine can keep pace even when the odds are stacked against you, but the design doesn't stop at the engine. The airframe isn't just strong, it's practically a fortress designed to endure the harsh realities of aerial combat. Built to tolerate punishing dive speeds, the structural integrity of this aircraft is nothing short of remarkable. Thick wings not only providing lift, but also engineered to carry substantial loads, whether it's guns, ammunition, fuel, or later on, serious ordnance. This isn't a dainty dancer, it's a turbocharged sledgehammer ready to take on whatever the skies throw at it. Now, let's talk trade-offs. Sure, with all this firepower and ruggedness, the aircraft may not be the most agile in tight turns. Pilots wouldn't call it nimble, but what it lacks in dainty maneuverability, it more than compensates with an immense growth margin. This aircraft was designed for altitude performance. It can climb to heights that would leave lesser planes gasping for air. That same robust structure also provides significant cooling headroom, which is critical during those long engagement scenarios, ensuring it doesn't overheat in the heat of battle. Survivability is another key factor. The airframe's design allows pilots to engage aggressively, taking the fight to the enemy while knowing they have a sturdy design backing them up. It instills confidence, an essential trait when your life hangs in the balance. You become part of a legacy where every dogfight is not just about skill, but about wielding a machine that can endure the chaos of combat and come out on the other side. Each flight in this aircraft is a learning experience, allowing pilots the grace to adapt and grow. While they navigate the skies, honed instincts combined with this turbocharged sledgehammer transforms every engagement into an opportunity to refine their skills. In the end, it's this fusion of intelligent design and raw power that creates something truly special, a machine that not only fights hard, but lives to tell the tale. As we delve deeper into the evolution of combat tactics during World War II, it's essential to shift our focus from just the aircraft themselves to the overarching doctrines that shaped how those planes were used in battle. One of the key figures in this transformation was Colonel Hub Zemke, a name that resonates within the annals of aerial warfare, not just for his skill, but for the rigorous approach he brought to air combat strategies, particularly with his famed 56th Fighter Group, known as Zemke's Wolfpack. Zemke understood that in the high-stakes game of air superiority, altitude is currency. The higher you are, the more options you have. Imagine being in the cockpit, the world below fading into an expansive canvas. Here, you hold the power. You possess the height advantage, the first strike capability. Zemke drilled into his pilots that maintaining speed was just as vital. Speed isn't just about reach, it's a weapon, a way to dictate the tempo of the fight. In this intense environment, discipline emerged as the ultimate virtue over raw ego. The temptation to dive into the fray, to engage in thrilling dogfights, could be overwhelming, but for the Wolfpack, discipline meant staying above the mess and picking your battles. So how exactly did this translate into a typical intercept? Picture this scenario. You're up in the air and catch sight of an enemy aircraft. The first step is the tally. You identify your target, but that's just the beginning. Next comes the bracket. You and your wingman get into position, flanking your target and forcing them into a difficult choice. The true beauty of Zemke's tactics shines in the boom and zoom approach. This involves diving on the enemy from a height, leveraging your speed to strike decisively, then climbing back up to altitude before they can effectively retaliate. After your initial engagement, you extend, breaking away to regroup, recharge, and constrain the enemy's options. This isn't just a tactical withdrawal, it's a psychological play. You maintain the high ground and dictate the terms of the next confrontation. Should the enemy try to follow you, you have the upper hand to re-attack as needed. This cycle creates an unyielding pressure on them. But it wasn't just the tactics that set Zemke's Wolfpack apart, it was the culture he cultivated. Imagine a team where checklist rigor is not just advisable, but a way of life. Every pilot prepares meticulously, following protocols and ensuring every detail is addressed. Debriefs after missions are honest and open, fostering an environment where lessons are shared and mistakes are acknowledged rather than hidden. This emphasis on transparency builds trust among pilots, driving home a shared commitment to improvement. And amid all this discipline, there's a calm aggression that permeates the Wolfpack's ethos. It's this mentality that turns mass and horsepower into a finely tuned instrument for ambush. Instead of chaotic scrums, you have a well-oiled machine capable of striking with precision and effectiveness, creating a formidable force in the air. Zemke's tactics remind us of the underlying principles of effective teamwork and strategy, not just in aerial combat, but in any high-stakes environment. They illustrate how the synergy of individual discipline, combined with collective action, can elevate any group to unprecedented levels of success. When it comes to firepower that can decisively end an argument on the battlefield, few weapons hold a candle to the Browning M2 50 caliber machine gun. Imagine, if you will, the sheer weight of 8 of these powerful guns working in unison, each capable of unleashing a wall of lead that can redefine the dynamics of combat. Picture the burst density as you squeeze the trigger. It's not just a few rounds flying off, it's a torrent that can rip through the air, shredding everything in its path. The M2's performance is grounded in an understanding of convergence. As those rounds zip toward their target, they do so with such precision that a half-second squeeze of the trigger can unhinge spars on a low-flying aircraft, torch enemy tanks, or shred critical control runs. This isn't just theory. This is the dramatic reality faced by anyone who finds themselves in the crosshairs of such overwhelming firepower. When you fire 850s, you're enveloping the target in a relentless storm of bullets, each one designed to hit hard and hit often. American gunnery training emphasizes the importance of this capability, utilizing film-backed debriefs to analyze deflection shooting with the kind of detail that would make any marksman nod in respect. Trainees learn not just to aim, but to understand ballistic trajectories and adjust for distance, wind, and movement. This is about getting that first shot right, but more importantly, it's about ensuring that the first hit is often the last one needed. With M2s, the adage, "the best defense is a good offense," springs to life. The sustained fire acts as a deterrent, creating a formidable presence against any opponent. Now contrast this with cannon doctrines that populate the contemporary battlefield. They operate on a different philosophy: fewer, heavier hits targeting specific points in isolation. While undeniable in their own right, their explosive power can indeed bring down structures and equipment. They can lack the controllability that comes with a high-rate machine gun. This is why teams like those found operating M2s are trained to maintain a steady stream of fire. The first hit typically leads to chaos, disorientation, and often a significant advantage for the side deploying that formidable 8-gun array. It's the difference between taking down a target swiftly with a well-placed shot versus the relentless, overwhelming presence of sustained fire. In the realm of combat, that rapid response translates into survival, and that's what makes the 50s not just weapons, but an extraordinary force multiplier on any battlefield. As we delve into the evolution of fighter escort, let's pivot our focus to one of the most transformative aspects: range and escort strategies, particularly the role of drop tanks and fuel management. In the early days of air combat, fighter planes were often confined to local zones, primarily providing defensive cover for bombers as they navigated hostile territories. However, the introduction of external fuel tanks changed everything, opening the door to more aggressive, offensive operations. Imagine the P-47 Thunderbolt soaring through the skies, equipped with these drop tanks. At first glance, its burly frame might suggest brute strength alone, yet the real magic comes from how this American powerhouse was engineered to adapt. With the ability to carry extra fuel, fighter escorts could significantly extend their reach. This shift from local cover to deep escort meant that P-47s could now engage enemy aircraft far beyond the immediate threat landscape surrounding the bombers. The once defensive role quickly evolved into one of vigilance and anticipation, seeking out enemy fighters before they could even approach the vulnerable bombers. Engine management became a crucial aspect of this new strategy, as pilots learned to maximize performance while conserving fuel. Imagine flying at high altitude, adrenaline pumping, knowing that every decision could impact the lives of those depending on your protection. By managing throttle and using the plane's speed to its advantage, pilots could ensure that they weren't just another fast-moving target. They became the agile sentinels of the skies. It was a delicate dance of power and finesse, understanding when to throttle back for efficiency and when to unleash the full might of their machine. With fuel abundance came a broader strategic vision. Logistic support became a linchpin of air operations, linking the physical power of the aircraft to the broader framework of military strategy. A thirsty fighter like the P-47, previously constrained by its fuel limitations, now emerged as a strategic tool wielded with purpose. Escort envelopes began to expand and rendezvous windows widened. This flexibility transformed air engagement, allowing for more effective and proactive defense measures. P-47s, armed with the capability to sanitize airspace ahead of the bomber streams, marked a turning point. Instead of waiting defensively behind the bombers, they initiated the chase, seeking out enemy fighters before they could pose a threat. Sketching a protective arc around the bombers, the P-47s would engage in dogfights well ahead of the formation, intercepting enemy aircraft and disrupting their plans to strike. Picture those roaring engines turning toward potential threats, a fierce determination as they surged into the unknown. It's not just combat, it's a mission to ensure that every bomber returns safely. Amidst this evolution, what resonates most is the bond forged between the aircraft and the pilot, coupled with the infrastructure supporting them. The P-47 encapsulates not just a machine, but a crucial element in a larger narrative of perseverance, strategy, and innovation. Each mission, filled with challenges and triumphs, echoed the shifting landscape of aerial warfare, forever altering how we view air superiority and the vital role of fighter escorts. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the North European skies, we find ourselves witnessing a pivotal moment in aerial combat history, the legendary showdown between the P-47 Thunderbolt and the German Focke-Wulf 190, or the Messerschmitt Bf 109. These birds of war, both engineering marvels in their own right, embody the spirit of their nations, each vying for superiority in the deadly game of dogfighting. Picture this, a sleek Fabu 190, painted in its iconic camouflage, poised to bait the American juggernaut into a classic trap. The German pilot knows the P-47 is a brute, with its powerful radial engine and heavy armor. A quick flick of the stick, and he executes a flat turn, tempting his adversary to follow his lead, hoping to lure the Jug into a vulnerable position where he can unleash a deadly Faustian bargain, a snapshot of the boom and zoom tactics that have defined this aerial warfare. But the P-47 pilot, seasoned and sharp-eyed, isn't falling for the ruse. Instead of following blindly, he recognizes the play. With a swift push forward on the throttle, he turns his altitude into speed, breaking from the confines of a flat turn to climb sharply, shooting upwards like a phoenix rising from the ashes. The P-47 screams up into the blue, banking on its impressive dive capabilities. And this, crucially, is where the Jug's might lies, not only in its speed and resilience, but in the refined coordination underpinned by American teamwork. The airwaves crackle with clean, rapid communication from the squadron's radio operators. This is where the US has its edge. Unlike the often chaotic exchanges from the Luftwaffe, American pilots are trained to speak in concise terms, dealing out information faster than a German pilot can react. A call comes from an observing wingman. "Jug on your 6, go vertical." A second joins in. "German on your tail, I'm going for a shot." As the P-47 pilot climbs, he feels a surge of unity. His squadron, a single organism manifested in 4 planes, is spinning a web of coordination. With the wingman covering his blind spots and the leader coordinating strikes, it feels like one mind orchestrating the dance of death high above the earth. The 4 planes act in harmony. As the dive commences, the Jug's belly drops as it converts its hard-won altitude into speed. The towering presence of the Thunderbolt powers forward, propelling down at terminal velocity. The FW-190 pilot, once confident in his bait and switch, now grimaces as the Jug roars down, realizing too late that the high velocity makes maneuvering deadly. The FW-190 attempts to shake the P-47 off his tail with evasive maneuvers, but it's all futile. The combination of expertly orchestrated communications and superior speed transforms this encounter from chaos into a symphony of death. The P-47 dives, aimed and focused, dropping the hammer as it unleashes a hail of fire onto its unsuspecting prey. With a flurry of bullets tearing through the sky, the orchestrated kill unfolds. No manic dogfight, just a decisive, coordinated strike. The German fighter meets fate as the P-47 pulls up, evading any final shots in a graceful exit. The sounds of gunfire fade into the ether as the squadron regroups, sharing that electrifying moment of victory, a triumph not just of machinery, but of teamwork, trust, and the calculated edge that turned aerial skirmishing into an art form, forever etching their names into the annals of history. The P-47 Thunderbolt, affectionately known as the Jug, often reminds us that sometimes a second chance can lead to a whole new chapter in history. Initially designed as a high-altitude fighter, its transformation into a low-flying ground attack aircraft showcased the versatility and resilience of this behemoth. Imagine the roar of its Pratt Whitney R-2800 engine, the swagger it exuded as it skimmed just above the treetops, turning what seemed like insurmountable obstacles into mere afterthoughts. What made the Jug truly formidable was its incredible armor and rugged construction. With nearly a foot of armor plating, it was like a rolling fortress in the sky. So, while enemy fighters sought the thin-skinned planes of the era, the P-47 turned them into targets, often shrugging off incoming fire with a bravado that commanded respect. Low altitude wasn't just a tactical choice, it was a statement. Picture this hulking juggernaut barreling down on trains, slicing through bridges and obliterating troop columns, turning operational freedom into chaos for the Germans. One of the most striking examples of this prowess can be traced back to the Normandy breakout. As Allied forces pushed inland after D-Day, the Jug proved indispensable in road interdiction, expertly converting crossroads into vital choke points. The strategy was simple yet powerful: cut off enemy reinforcements and supplies by transforming key infrastructures into graveyards of twisted steel. The skillful pilots targeted critical junctions, utilizing their aircraft stability to lay waste to convoys and troop movements, all while maintaining an impressive presence in the sky above. Armed with an arsenal of rockets, bombs, and even the efficacious skip strikes on rail lines, the Jug quickly became a weapon of choice for shaping the battlefield. With each deadly dive, the P-47 showcased its mass, an imposing force that impacted ground operations directly. The pilots weren't just following orders, they became participants in the spirit of ingenuity, using their machines to bring about tactical and psychological warfare. It personified the grit and determination of those who flew it. Even as the Thunderbolt delivered decisive blows against ground targets, it still served its original purpose, patrolling the skies and providing escort for bombers. One moment, it was low to the ground, hammering enemy positions with a ferocity that left destruction in its wake. The next moment, it was a guardian of the sky, ensuring the safety of its comrades. The juggling act was not just a showcase of agility, but a testament to their training and the shared narrative of survival that each pilot understood deeply. So when you think of the P-47 Thunderbolt, see beyond just the mechanics of the aircraft. Imagine the pilots flying those missions, the adrenaline coursing through their veins as they turned war zones into stages for their aerial antics. Each flight wasn't just a journey from point A to B, it was a battle for freedom, an expression of resilience and a piece of history that resonates even today. The Jug wasn't just a flying tank, it was a symbol of what it meant to adapt, to thrive under fire, and to leave a mark where it mattered most. When it comes to the heart of aviation, the power plant beneath the cowling can make all the difference between life and death. Air-cooled radial engines are a prime example of design that prioritizes pilot survivability. Unlike the more complex liquid-cooled systems, radial engines eliminate the risk of coolant leaks. Picture this: you're in the middle of a dogfight over hostile territory. One wrong move, and the last thing you want to worry about is losing coolant. With air-cooled radials, you get straightforward reliability. They can withstand extreme conditions without the risk of catastrophic failure from a failure of cooling systems. Moreover, these engines boast impressive shock tolerance. They're engineered to endure the punishing vibration and impact that come with aerial maneuvers, making them more resilient in combat situations. If something does go wrong, in turbulence or a rough landing, those radials deliver a get-you-home resilience. Pilots have the confidence to push their machines to the limit, knowing that their engines are built to take the abuse and still bring them back to safety. Maintenance plays a crucial role in keeping these aircraft flying. The philosophy behind air-cooled radials often revolves around standardized parts, allowing for quick engine swaps. Imagine being in a forward operating base and a pilot comes in after a long sortie with a worn-out engine. With standardized parts, ground crews can swiftly replace that engine without searching for unique components. This efficiency translates to flight readiness. Aircraft are back in the air sooner, providing necessary firepower when it counts. And let's not forget about the strategic aspect of operations, particularly during winter months and high flak environments. As temperatures drop and enemy fire intensifies, speed can decrease and the risks increase dramatically. But those reliable radials continue to operate effectively, enabling pilots to execute their missions even under adverse conditions. The design and engine durability allows sorties to continue, and pilots can take calculated risks, knowing that their aircraft is built for the challenge. Now, all of this aircraft engineering genius would mean little without a formidable logistics network backing it up. The American supply machine acts as a lifeblood for these operations. Picture a mobile depot in the field loaded with deep ammo stocks ready to resupply at a moment's notice. It's this seamless handshake between the aircraft's robust design and logistics support that really brings the entire operation to life. Every sortie is backed by a master plan of maintenance and resupply, ensuring that when you need to deliver the punch, you have the firepower and the aircraft to do it confidently. This combination of survivability through innovative design, smart maintenance practices, and relentless logistical support doesn't just ensure missions are accomplished, they keep pilots alive. Every flight isn't just a journey. It's a testament to the meticulous orchestration of engineering and resources that keeps aerial warriors soaring through the skies, ready to face the next challenge. As we dive into the receipts of aerial warfare, let's break down the numbers that tell the story of victory and loss. Sortie counts, air-to-air engagements, ground targets destroyed. These all paint a vivid picture of the air campaign's progress. Over the course of the operation, our forces executed over 1,200 sorties in just a week, a testament to sheer determination and strategy. Each mission represented not just a number, but a flight crew's commitment and a pilot's bravery, putting them squarely in the crosshairs of the enemy. When we take a closer look at air-to-air encounters, the scoreboard reveals a clear advantage for our side. With 180 confirmed aerial victories against an opponent that was scrambling to keep pace, we can better understand the tactical advantage gained through proficiency and training. Yet, these numbers serve a dual purpose. They validate the successes on the battlefield while highlighting the strategic obsolescence of our adversaries. For each Luftwaffe pilot downed, there was not just a loss of life, but a drastic hit to morale and operational capability. Ground targets weren't spared as well. The destruction of over 250 enemy vehicles and facilities effectively crippled their logistical capabilities. Gun camera footage from these strikes is more than footage. It's an educational resource for pilots and strategists alike. Each frame reveals strategy in action, the paths we took, the timing of our strikes, the precision of our targeting. This constant review and learning from real-time footage only enhances our skills and tactics in subsequent missions. Taking a moment to reflect on the psychological impact of our operations, consider the dawn strafes upon dispersal areas and runway thresholds. These early morning strikes weren't merely about numbers, they were a calculated assault meant to starve the Luftwaffe's pipeline. Fewer freshly trained pilots made it into the air, and of those who did, countless never returned. The result? A significant collapse in training throughput and operational readiness for our adversaries, leaving them scrambling to maintain their strength. It's eerie how such calculated strikes can sow chaos. Yet, there's an underlying truth. one that shifts our perspective on warfare. Every time we executed those dawn missions, we ensured the laughter echoed less in the skies above Europe. The confidence of the Luftwaffe pilots became a faint shadow. The stakes were clear. Every mission flown was a lesson learned, not just for ourselves, but for the next generation of aviators. The laughter that once filled their ranks faded, replaced by the stark, grim realities of loss. As we tally this outcome, the scoreboard represents more than just metrics. It encapsulates the very essence of air superiority. It's the cumulative impact of strategy, risk, and the relentless pursuit of dominance in the skies. Our work here isn't done. It's merely a foundation for what's to come as we adjust our tactics in response to this evolving battlefield. The war continues, and so does our resolve. As we delve deeper into the psychological landscape of aerial warfare during World War II, we must confront a striking shift in perception within the German ready rooms, a moment when the very notion of superiority flips into a terrifying supremacy that marks the descent into despair. In the early days of the war, pilots strode confidently into those ready rooms, their visages illuminated by the glow of maps showcasing their dominance in the skies. The narrative seemed straightforward. They were the hunters, soaring above the enemy with a ferocious advantage. The roar of their engines was not just a mechanical sound, it was a signal that inspired courage, a reminder of their prowess. But by 1943, that perception began to crack. Picture a pilot on a routine mission. The sun glimmers off his aircraft. His heart beats in rhythm with the hum of the engine. Yet, as he scans the skies, uncertainty creeps in. A lone British Spitfire appears, darting through the clouds. He recalls the old mantra, "Don't chase a jug in a dive, don't taxi when they're overhead." These recurring words carry new weight as doubt hangs in the air like the scent of burning fuel. This feeling isn't limited to the skies. Ground soldiers, too, start to learn the dire sound of certainty, the thunderous rumble that signals an imminent threat. The intensity of that noise morphs from an echo of victory to a harbinger of doom. The moment instinct shifts from anticipation to dread is palpable. When you hear that roar, it's no longer about bravado. It's about survival, a visceral instruction to move or die. As we trace the timeline from 1943, the cracks widen and the axis begins to tilt. Air battles morph from scenes of valiant charge to desperate evasion. By late 1944, with railway lines attacked and factories in ruins, expectations plummet. Pilots no longer look to the skies with confidence. Instead, they brace for the inevitable. The Luftwaffe transforms from predator to prey. The sheer absence of their once-feared squadrons marks a somber end to an era of aerial supremacy. Every mission now carries a weight that feels heavier than the aircraft themselves. They don't just fly to win, they fly to escape, an anxious maneuver through the clouds, seeking safety not in the elegant dive, but in the diminishing hope that they won't be hunted in return. The skies, once belonging to the Luftwaffe, now ridiculed their scarcity, casting a shadow that rendered their pilots mere fragments of a fading legend. The collapse of perception traces a haunting arc, transitioning from a cultural expectation of superiority to a grim acceptance of their downfall. With every roar of an enemy aircraft, that brief internal narrative of invincibility dissolves into a chilling realization. Supremacy is a fragile illusion, and its shattering echoes linger long after the final engagement. In those rightfully haunting moments, the essence of being a pilot isn't wrapped in honor anymore. It's encapsulated in an urgent fight for survival, leaving behind a profound psychological scar that would shape generations. As we step into the crucial lessons distilled from the Jug's law of war, it's important to reflect on what we can glean from its teachings, not just as a historical recount, but as principles applicable to our everyday lives. First, consider the adage that energy tactics beat style. In essence, it reminds us that brute force applied with smart execution will often triumph over finesse alone. Picture a moment, perhaps in your own life, where you've been faced with a challenge requiring you to choose between the flashy, trendy approach versus the straightforward, hard-working route. We've all been in situations where simply putting in the hours with determination achieves results that seemingly clever strategies fail to deliver. Next up is the notion that density of fire ends ambiguity. In military terms, this translates to overwhelming your adversary with sheer force. For us in civilian life, the lesson here is about clarity. When we confront problems, be it in negotiations, project deadlines, or team dynamics, assertive communication and clear, decisive action cut through uncertainty. In contexts ranging from workplace discussions to personal relationships, ambiguity creates doubt. A focused effort lets everyone know exactly where they stand. The third lesson is that survivability compounds across campaigns. This isn't about surviving one battle, it's about taking lessons learned and investing them into future endeavors. Think about your own experiences. Every setback is an opportunity to grow. Each time we adapt and overcome, we not only build resilience, but also increase our chances of success in future challenges. It's the idea that our paths forward become clearer as we learn to move smarter, leveraging past experiences to create better outcomes. Lastly, we arrive at the insight that platforms with growth room win long wars. Whether we're discussing businesses, careers, or personal projects, having the flexibility to scale and adapt over time is crucial. Reflect on your aspirations. Are you tied to a rigid path, or have you left room for growth? Flexibility in approach can often dictate long-term success. As we acknowledge these durable rules, we can't forget to credit the system that makes it all possible. The pilots, crew chiefs, armorers, fuelers, factories, and all those silent heroes. These individuals, each working in tandem, create the effective machine that ultimately leads to victory. It's a humbling reminder of the collaborative spirit that fuels success, whether on the battlefield or in our daily lives. And just as the story unfolded with the Thunderbolt, initially seen as the joker in the pack, the flying tank faced skepticism until it proved lethal in the skies. It's a vivid reminder that innovation often faces scrutiny before achieving greatness. In our next episode of the They Laughed Until series, we'll dive deeper into another emblematic misfit that turned skeptics into believers. Get ready to uncover the untold stories of history's overlooked innovations that ultimately changed the game. It's going to be a journey through skepticism to triumph that you won't want to miss.